Gqeberha taxi operators have agreed to return to work, ending a week-long protest. The drivers want answers over UIF and COVID-19 relief funding. They claim the Labour Department paid out the money, but they never received it. Taxi operators and associations have now reached a resolution following a meeting yesterday. Our reporter Ronald Masinda has been following the story and he joins me now live. Ronald, are you with the taxi drivers at the moment? Have they told you why it is that they've decided to actually stand down on that protest now?
Masako, very good morning to you. We are actually with the Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality Mayor, Mr. Nqaba Bhanga, to tell us more with regards to the ending of the strike. Mr. Bhanga, thank you so much for your time. First of all, when did you reach an agreement, and if perhaps are there terms and conditions with regards to this agreement?
Not at all. There are no terms of reference or terms of agreement in relation to the strike, in particular with the issue that was so popular in the media in relation to the releasing of the people who have been arrested. And I can assure everybody that we have affirmed that the law must take its course on the people that committed certain crimes. And I think also the taxi drivers understand that there cannot be any way that charges can be withdrawn to people who have committed crime. Because what happened in this city cannot be acceptable in South Africa. And it is for that reason that I've called for the intervention of the army, because we must teach our people that we are a constitutional democracy and people have rights. Our children couldn't go to school, patients couldn't go to hospital, our nurses were chased away in hospitals and doctors, and we couldn't accept that. And we will never accept it again. That's why even the letter that I've written to the president is still standing, that even in any instability that happened in this city, that the police force must do its work, and then if we need intervention must happen. Because people have rights to live and walk and do whatever they want to do. And we're not going to tolerate things like that.
Let me come in there, Mr. Bhanga, because some are of the view that the taxi industry seems to be a law amongst themselves. Many people are saying that they are taking law into their own hands. You mentioned that several services have been disrupted during this protest. People were barred from going to hospitals and schools and even malls. Then my question is, what has been said so that this does not happen again?
This was a fight between the taxi associations and on the basis of what was allocated to them, which is the COVID-19 fund. And what I have offered through the request of the taxi drivers, which I met with very genuine individuals, I said, Mr. Mayor, can you intervene to this problem? We know that this has nothing to do with you. Can you facilitate a process where there is a discussion between these institutions? And then I've done that, and we've had a process for discussion for us to verify whether or not there were irregularities in the process, in which we put up dates for discussions, and they were very happy. All the partners were happy, and I can say that our Premier in the Eastern Cape played a very pivotal role in this, in facilitating that everybody was supposed to be here, should be here, and the National Department of Transport and also the HOD of Transport was here, and is part of the issues that we are trying to resolve. Because what we told them that whoever holds or is given money of the state, public money, have a responsibility to account and be transparent, and everybody agrees with that. And I think that process we are going to follow, we are going to monitor it ourselves, and make sure that whoever is supposed to answer to the question.
What are the damages caused during this protest?
The damages that were caused by this protest are unbelievable and are not acceptable. They've destroyed our roads, they've destroyed buses, they've destroyed our clinics, they've destroyed some parts of our hospitals and schools and our streets and everything else. That's why the people who've been arrested have to answer to these questions, because we must make sure that people understand that if you destroy state property, if you destroy private property of individuals, there are consequences, and that should happen, because there's no way in a democratic South Africa that people must be allowed to intimidate and also sabotage the state in its function, including businesses. VW, Isuzu, and many other institutions have closed down. People who employ not less than 40,000 people. And those institutions could not function, and that's not acceptable. It cannot be acceptable. That if I fight with my family in this house, it should not be the affair of the people in the street, because the state and government have done nothing in this regard. It was an internal issue of the taxi industry. Therefore, our people and our residents were intimidated, and I've said it from the beginning, we're not going to accept it, and will not accept it. That's why even if there was no solution on this, that the South African police were ready and state security were ready to open up the city.
All right. You've mentioned that a lot of damages were caused during this protest, and at some point this week you said that although the taxi industry is fighting over an amount of around 6.5 million rand, but the damages caused were way more than the amount that they were fighting for. Yet you also mentioned this week that only 6 arrests were made. Is this a failure on the policing, and is this why you are calling for the army to be deployed?
It's not a failure. I can tell you, like from the beginning with the police commissioner, which is the provincial police commissioner, when this thing was starting to escalate and escalate, we were in conversation, the premier and myself were in conversation about this, and the premier was so furious, even when I was telling him that we have reached a stage of consensus. He was saying there's no way that we should accept this kind of behavior. And this is what I like about what happened, is that all levels of the state were cooperating to make sure that there's going to be peace and order and stability to our people. And the province have drawn in many people to come in here. And I can tell you, if on Thursday there was no calm, we could have had an enforcement to open up the city, whether they liked it or not, because all of us, we agreed that our people and our residents cannot be captured by individuals, in particular criminals. And then we had to show the ability of the state, that the state can, and that's important in the South African democracy, that we have a right for all of us to have a peace and a secured South Africa. And we're ready, we're going to get into there. And I'm happy that also we didn't do that, we didn't have to put force, but there was rationality and consensus amongst ourselves.
All right. So we are heading to a local government election here, and many people that we spoke to with regards to some of the other service delivery protests this week have said that, you know, what could have taken place here could have been a political agenda. Are you of that view? And also, given that a lot of people here on this metro are unemployed, at least 42%.
What I saw happening here in the city was a criminal element. Because if you're fighting for benefits for UIF, but you can't go to a vehicle of Coca-Cola and loot it, that's not political, it's criminals. And what we need to understand in South Africa, we must deal with criminals decisively and separate politics from criminals. And I don't think there was a political agenda. I'm not a security agent. But I think it was an issue between the taxi associations that was happening here. It's not about elections. In this city, the city I lead, the people here are happy on the basis that since we took over the city, we're building roads, we're putting street lights, infrastructure, we're making sure that the running of government is better. We're bringing hope back to our people. You can even see on how we've handled the issue of the taxi strike, to make sure that we consultate everybody and bring them together and bring them in context that it is important for our children to go to school. And it is important for business to function because we're 42% of our people unemployed here in the city.
But
to bring back confidence to business.
Let me come in there, Mayor. Some are questioning as to why this taxi strike took so long, and yet you are lauding your efforts to say that, you've resolved the issue amicably.
We didn't know what this thing was going to happen. That was the first thing that nobody knew. It's like COVID. People just wake up and close street, burning everywhere. But we put up the forces together. We mobilized the police, and it is not our jurisdiction as a municipality. We did nothing wrong. Our residents did nothing wrong. We didn't falter nobody. We didn't expect this. When people fight in the house, you don't know that they are fighting. But we had to make sure that we mobilize everything because we realized that this is a criminal, had also a criminal element. And the police were here. It is for that reason when this thing was escalating that even the South African police could not even cope with the situation. And I had to call for the army to stop the criminal element, for us to deal decisively with criminals. And I want to apologize to our residents, even if we have not done anything wrong, because many of our people and our businesses collapsed and businesses were closed. And it must not happen like this. And I think the state must understand that it must be able to respond quickly to things like this, and decisively, by the way. And because livelihoods were destroyed in this. And our residents and our people in the city have done nothing in this thing, and they were terrorized. Okay. And as a leader of the city, I felt that we can't take this thing anymore, and we have to fight back. And our people themselves were making that call, that if the police cannot cope with the situation, we have nothing else, utilize our army to defend our residents. I think it's enshrined in the Constitution.
Very briefly, Mayor, because my producers are telling me to wrap after this, but very, very briefly, we are yet to hear any word from the Minister, Fikile Mbalula, the Transport Minister. What has been said and what is the way forward?
On Thursday, we had a discussion, myself and Fikile Mbalula. He was very furious about this. And I'm a leader of the DA in the Eastern Cape, but I don't want to play politics on this. The support we got from Mbalula, how furious he was, how Oscar Mabuyane, the Premier of the Eastern Cape, how furious they were about the situation. Because there's no fear of government that has caused this. And I don't want us to put politics on this. It had nothing to do with politics. It had nothing to do with government. And I think government in each and every level, they've made their commitments. And we must not reduce issues when criminals take over a city and start to divide ourselves when we have not done anything. And we must be very objective in the things we do. And I want to appreciate the support of the national sphere of government, the provincial sphere of government, and what we're doing to try and respond to the situation. We're together as a collective to try and say we are going to deal with this issue decisively. That's why the reinforcement and everything else that we've done was done quickly. And I think even the letter I wrote to the President was received well to say that we can't in our country together tolerate that our people throughout South Africa, because people have an issue about something, whether about housing, whether about lighting, whether about services, that must terrorize our citizens. And we have to make sure that as politicians and those who have an authority of power, we defend individual rights, that people can function in a democratic South Africa without being intimidated.
All right, Mayor, thank you very much indeed for your time. Well, Maseko, that was the Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality Executive Mayor Nqaba Bhanga, further confirming that the taxi protest is over.